Ever feel like you're just constantly being pulled in different directions? Like trying to figure out the right way forward is, well, it's tough.
Yeah, it really is. It's a modern problem, but it's also, ancient.
Exactly. And that's why today we're actually going way back. We're digging into an old story, an account from the Bible, that sheds some serious light on choices, influence, and, frankly, consequences.
Hmm. We're jumping into 2 Chronicles Chapter 22. It's pretty short, but incredibly packed. It's all about leadership, who you listen to, and what happens when those things go wrong.
Like a case study, almost.
Sort of, yeah. A historical one that feels surprisingly relevant.
So the main players here are Ahaziah, who becomes king of Judah,
Yeah.
quite young. There's a bit of debate on the age, 22 or 42, but regardless, his reign was super short.
Right, just 1 year. And then there's his mother, Athaliah. Her family connection is crucial. She's from the house of King Ahab, which, if you know your history, that's a big red flag.
Oh, definitely. That name carries a lot of weight, none of it good.
And that connection really sets the stage for Ahaziah's, disastrous time as king.
So our aim in this deep dive is to unpack the lessons here. What can this ancient story teach us about, navigating influences, making better choices?
And ultimately, how can understanding this piece of history actually encourage us towards obedience and maybe even strengthen our faith today?
Okay, so let's get into the story itself. Ahaziah takes the throne because his older brothers were killed.
Yeah, rough start already. And right off the bat, the text points to his mother, Athaliah. It says she was his counselor to do wickedly.
It's so direct, isn't it? Not just gave bad advice, but actively counseled him towards wickedness.
It really highlights how powerful that close influence can be. She deliberately steered him towards the ways of her own family, Ahab's family.
It makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About the voices we let guide us. Are they pushing us towards, good things, or maybe subtly undermining our values?
Uh-huh. And it wasn't just his mom. The text says he walked in the ways of Ahab's house and took their counsel. So a wider circle of bad influence.
Which then led him to make this questionable alliance. He teams up with King Joram of Israel, who is Ahab's son, keeping him in the family, I guess.
Right, and they go to war together against Hazael of Syria. Joram gets wounded.
So Ahaziah goes to visit him while he's recovering in Jezreel. Seems innocent enough, maybe?
Well, the narrative frames it differently. It says his going down to Joram was of God. God actually orchestrated this visit.
Why? What was the point?
Because it brought him directly into contact with Jehu. Jehu was the man God had specifically anointed to destroy the house of Ahab.
Ah, okay. So by associating with Joram, Ahaziah basically put himself in the line of fire.
Exactly. The company he kept literally sealed his fate. It shows how our alliances or close connections can put us on paths we didn't intend, paths that might lead us away from, God's protection or will.
Are our own relationships pulling us closer to faith, or maybe making us compromise a little here and there? It's a sobering thought.
It is. And Jehu carries out his mission. He executes judgment on Ahab's house, finds Ahaziah's relatives who are visiting, and kills them too.
What about Ahaziah himself?
He tries to hide in Samaria, but Jehu's men find him. They bring him to Jehu, and he's killed.
Wow. Just like that. A 1-year reign ends pretty brutally.
It does, but there's a small detail about his burial. They bury him because, as the text says, he was the son of Jehoshaphat who sought the Lord with all his heart.
So a little bit of honor shown, maybe because of his grandfather's faithfulness.
Perhaps, but it doesn't negate the consequences of his own actions. God's justice still plays out even though his reign was short. It's a reminder that accountability is real, We can't just assume short-term choices won't matter.
Yeah, that's heavy. And the fallout isn't over yet, is it? What happens next is arguably even worse.
Right. When Athaliah, Ahaziah's mother, hears her son is dead, she doesn't just mourn, she seizes power. Violently.
How violent?
She sets out to destroy the entire royal line of Judah, kills all her potential rivals, basically her own grandchildren, except for one.
That's horrifying. The sheer ruthlessness. It shows how deep the corruption went, stemming from that connection to Ahab.
Absolutely. It's a stark picture of spiritual compromise leading to just utter destruction and tyranny. It really underscores how our unfaithfulness can ripple outwards, causing generational damage.
But you said, except for one, there's a glimmer of hope.
Yes, thank goodness. Ahaziah's sister, Jehoshabeth, who was also married to the high priest, Jehoiada, she acts incredibly bravely.
What did she do?
She manages to rescue Ahaziah's infant son, Joash, from the massacre. She hides him and his nurse in a bedroom within the temple grounds.
Wow. Right under Athaliah's nose, basically.
For 6 years. While Athaliah ruled Judah, this tiny remnant of David's line, the rightful heir, was kept safe in the house of God.
That's amazing. So even in this complete chaos and evil, God's promise to David wasn't broken.
Exactly. It's a powerful picture of God's sovereignty and faithfulness. Even when everything seems lost, when wickedness seems to be winning, he's still working. He preserves his plan.
That really resonates. It gives you hope that even in our own confusing or dark times, God is still in control, still faithful to his promises.
Absolutely. So if we pull back from the specific story, what are the big takeaways for us living now?
Well, the danger of bad counsel seems pretty clear. Ahaziah listened to his mother in Ahab's house, and it led straight to ruin.
Right. And in our world, bad counsel can come from anywhere, can it? Social media, cultural pressures, maybe even well-meaning friends who aren't grounded in godly wisdom. We have to be so careful about who or what we let shape our thinking.
That idea of the company you keep also hits hard. Ahaziah's alliance put him in the wrong place at the wrong time, spiritually speaking.
Yeah. Who are we aligning ourselves with? Are closest relationships building us up in faith, or are they subtly causing us to drift? It's about partnerships, communities, everything.
And Athaliah's story,
Yeah.
that's a chilling example of generational consequences, isn't it? How spiritual compromise doesn't just affect one person.
Oh, definitely. Our choices today, good or bad, they really do echo into the future. They impact our families, our communities. What kind of legacy are we leaving?
Then there's God's justice. Ahaziah didn't get away with it despite the short reign.
It reminds us that accountability is real. We can't just coast along. Living in a way that honors God matters, regardless of whether the consequences seem immediate or not.
And Ahaziah's leadership, or lack thereof, endangered everyone.
Which applies to any kind of influence we have, right? Parenting, work roles, community involvement. Leading without wisdom, without seeking godly counsel, it puts others at risk. We need humility.
But then that final point, God protecting Joash, that's huge.
It's the counter-narrative to all the darkness. God's faithfulness endures. His promises hold. Even when things look completely bleak, he is preserving his plan. That has to strengthen our faith, knowing he's working behind the scenes, even now.
So this chapter 2, Chronicles 22, it's really a cautionary tale, isn't it? It pushes us towards choosing obedience, towards being discerning about influences.
Yeah, and seeing God's justice and sovereignty play out, even in such a messy historical period, it reminds us he's in control. It encourages us to trust him more deeply.
It all comes back to seeking his wisdom, aligning ourselves with his purposes, trying to avoid those destructive paths we see so clearly here.
It's about anchoring ourselves in what's true and lasting, not just the fleeting trends or pressures around us.
So thinking about all this, considering the influences in your own lives right now, maybe take a moment to ask yourself, are you actively seeking out voices and relationships that build your faith and encourage obedience? Or are you perhaps finding yourself more swayed by the louder, more immediate voices of the world around you?